Hey, I want to welcome you back to another episode of Grace, Grit, and Grounds. Well, I'm back on the lathe today, and I have the opportunity to turn a piece that, well, you'll see in the very end of this that is just absolutely spectacular. Some pieces of wood you kind of leave where they fall, and some you go back for. This didn't come out of a scrap pile. It didn't come out of a discard bin. It actually came from a larger board that I picked up when I was in the Indiana sawmill. Good wood, yes, but it was already starting to turn. Spalted it was, pretty heavily. The kind of piece that most folks would pass over if they were looking for something a bit clean. But I've learned clean isn't always where the beauty is. Spalting. Well, it's kind of a strange thing. If you don't know what that means, it's wood that's begun to break down. Left on the ground long enough, moisture sets in and fungi move through it, and slowly it starts to decay. Left alone, this piece doesn't become something beautiful, it becomes dust. And that's not a flaw in nature, that's part of the grand design. Everything returns to the ground eventually, but every now and then something gets picked up before that happens. I cut this board down into blanks, and this one ended up about 3.5 by 3.5. Nothing special at first glance, just a block of wood, but once you put it on the lathe, things start to change. You take something square and you begin to make it round. You remove what it's not, and you start revealing what it could be. And this piece, it was different. Some would fight you. Yes, hickory is dense. Walnut can be stubborn at times. Red oak will push back and make you earn every cut. But not this one. This one moved. It didn't chatter. It didn't resist. It was almost like it had already let go of whatever it used to be. The tool I was using just flowed. The shavings came off clean and smooth, almost like I was working with butter. No jerking, no catching, no argument with the grain. And I kept thinking while I was turning it, there's something about a piece that's already been through enough that it stops trying to fight in the process. It doesn't mean it's weak. It kind of means that it's ready, ready to be shaped, ready to become something new. And I don't know, maybe there's a place in life where we get there too. Not beaten down, but worn in just enough that we stop resisting every cut God is trying to make. Because if I'm honest, most of the time, the hardest pieces to shape are the ones that won't yield. But this one, well, this one trusted the hands that it was in. So I cut the tenon in the base and I added a few concentric rings. I didn't know at that point if I would keep it or sand it off, but sometimes you don't know what the final piece is going to look like while you're still in the middle of it. And that's real life too, isn't it? You know, we want clean lines and clear direction, but most of the time, we're just working the piece in front of us. I wanted to get it shaped and get it ready so I can flip it around to the four-jaw chuck, but I'm not quite ready to do that yet because before I could turn this around, before I could even think about hollowing it out, I had to shape the outside first. I left it right there on the worm screw, and once the tenon was cut, I just started working the bottom. This is where the foundation gets set. You begin to round it out, not all at once, not in a rush, but kind of slowly, intentionally, letting this shape come to you as much as you bring it out out of the wood. Because if you don't get this part right, nothing else is going to sit the way it should. You can't rush the inside of the piece if the outside doesn't know what it's supposed to be yet. So I started laying in that curve, bringing the base down, letting that soft, rounded form to begin to take shape. And again, this piece just moved. There was no fight in it, no resistance, just steady, quiet shaping. And there's something about that part of the process that just sticks with me because this is the part nobody really sees. When it's finished, people will notice the inside, they'll notice the opening, the depth, the grain that pulls them in. But all of that rests on the work that happened first on the outside, on the foundation that had to be set before anything else could follow. And that's true beyond the lathe, too. There's a lot of work God does in us that doesn't just feel There's a lot of work God does in us that doesn't feel impressive at the moment. It's just shaping. It's just the grind. But steady, patient work, getting us ready for something that we can't even see yet. With the bottom done, I was able to finally flip it around and set it into the chuck. I used a worm screw at first, and I'll tell you, one of the other blanks from this same board when I used the worm screw split right in half along one of those spalted lines. That's kind of the risk with wood like this. It's not as strong as it used to be. It's been through something. So I had to slow down. I had to pay attention. I had to respect where it's weak. If I didn't do that, then I end up having problems. I have to work with it, not against this piece. So then I decided to go ahead and step it down with Forstner bits, opening up the center, and then I just got down to the shaping. My plan was to keep the opening tight and let it open up inside. From the outside, it says simple, but the inside, there's depth, there's room, there's something you don't fully see unless you can lean in. And the more I worked this piece, the more I couldn't shake the thought. This is what happens when something gets picked up before it's gone too far. Because the truth is, this wood was already on its way out. Give it enough time and it wouldn't have been worth even burning. It would just crumble, powder in your hands. And I can't help but look at the world we're living in right now and see a lot of men being left where they fell, told that they are not needed, told that they are the problem, told to step aside, quiet down, fade out. And somewhere along the line, a lot of good men started believing it. Men who would have built, men who would have led, men who would have stood when it mattered. Instead, they're sitting on the ground, wondering if they've got any purpose left at all. Now hear me clearly. This isn't about men versus women. We need both. Strength looks different across the board. But it matters on both sides. You don't tear down one to build up the other without breaking something deeper. If we ignore what men were meant to carry, if we tell them they don't have a place, we don't get progress. We get decay. Because anything left alone long enough breaks down. That's true in wood, and that's true in us. I remember when I was younger, picking up scars here and there, cuts, scratches, all of it. I used to joke that life was a game, and the guy with the most scars win. I don't believe that same way anymore. Truth is, I'd rather my kids not carry what I've carried. But that's not real life either. We all get marked. We all get scarred. Some of it shows on the outside, but a lot of it doesn't. And those marks, those lines, those weak places, they don't have to be the end of the story. Because Scripture says in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 16, though the outward man is wasting away, the inward man is being renewed day by day. And Romans 8:28 says this, that God works all things together for good for those who loved him and are called according to his purpose. Not some things, but all things, even the parts we wish we could sand away. You see, when I finished shaping this, I stepped back and honestly, I was surprised. Because what started off as something already breaking down, something that I wasn't sure about, became something I didn't expect. Not perfect, but rare, full of character, something worth keeping. And maybe that's the word somebody needs to hear today, that you're not done. You're not useless. You're not something to be left behind and forgotten. That you might feel like you've been sitting around too long, like life has already taken too much out of you, but you're not dust yet. As long as you're not dust, there's still something that can be shaped. Maybe the move isn't to stay where you are. Maybe it's time you got back on the lathe. Let God do what he does. Not erase the story, but bring something out of it that you didn't think was there. We're finally getting to this part that I always look forward to. When the oil goes on and everything that was there all along finally shows itself. Up to this point, I've been working mostly in the dust. I can see hints of the grain, little flashes of what it might be, but it's just muted. Then the finish hits it, and all of a sudden it just comes alive. Every line, every mark, every place that looked a little questionable before, it all kind of steps forward, not hidden, not erased, but revealed. I think that's how a lot of life works too. We spend so much of the time trying to hide the marks, sanding them out, covering them up, wishing they weren't there. But in the right hands, those are the very things that give this piece its depth, its story, its weight. When I look at this piece now, knowing where it started, I can't help but think about the men out there who feel like they've already missed their window, like their time has passed. Too many mistakes, too many things they wish they could go back and fix, and maybe nobody said it to you in a while. But let me just say this again. You're not done. You're not something to be set aside. You're not too far gone. You're just a little unfinished. And sometimes that's all this is. Not the end. Just the middle of the turning. And to the women who love those men, who are walking beside them, raising families with them, believing in them when they don't always believe in themselves, please don't give up. Don't give up on them. Speak life when it's quiet. Stand firm when they're unsure. Remind them who they are, even when they've forgotten. Because a good man, shaped well, grounded right, that's not something this world has too much of. That's something we desperately need. This piece, well, it was on its way out. Left alone, it would have turned into nothing. But it got picked up. It got worked, shaped. And now it's something worth holding on to. And maybe that's the takeaway. Stay in the work. Stay on the lathe. Let God keep shaping, even when it's slow, even when it doesn't make sense yet. Because grace builds what grit sustains. If this resonated with you, if you're in that middle place, still being shaped, go ahead and like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Stick around. There's more work to be done. And I can promise you, it's worth it. You're worth it. We are worth it. Thank you again for joining me for this episode of Grace, Grit, and Grounds. I look forward to seeing you all again soon.